Investing in newly built properties, is it better for your real estate portfolio? That's the topic for today's episode, and without further ado, let's dive in. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode. For those who are tuning in for the first time, this is your channel for real estate education. So today we're going to talk about the different types of building. So funny enough, I was having a conversation the other day, and one of the topics that was actually brought up was, I think I want to invest in newer buildings because they are in fact a lot better and there's less maintenance to worry about. So I wanted to create an episode to talk about the different type of buildings so you can actually see for yourself whether having a new building is or isn't the best for your real estate portfolio investment. So without further ado, let's jump into the board. So let's analyze this table right here. You have different type of building classes. You have Class A, Class B, Class C, and D. And I'm sure you've heard about it at some point in your investing career, whether it's from another investor or a friend or in a YouTube video itself. And the meaning of this doesn't necessarily relate to the grading structure. So let's say, for example, you go to school and you get an A, so that means you got 100 or something in the upper 90s, right? Or if you got a B, then that makes you a B student. So it's slightly different here. So the first determining factor for the grading of a building structure is the number of years. So anything that is built between 0 to 11 years old is considered a Class A building. And then anything from 11 to 18 is Class B. Anything over 20 years is considered Class C. And anything that it's just simply not well cared for, then that's a Class D property. Now, I'm sure you've seen a lot of old buildings that have a lot of character, especially in New York City. And those buildings, you'll be surprised to see them to be Class B or Class C. So does that necessarily mean they are bad investments? They're bad buildings? No, it just simply has to do with the aging of the structure. You can make the building look as pretty as possible, as luxurious as possible, and that will still be a Class B or a Class C building. Now, part of the grading system also has to do with location. So for the most part, if you're looking at new constructions, new buildings, they're usually built in a very desirable location, in a very demanding area. It's highly sought after a lot of people. So for example, when you're talking about areas like New York City, we're talking about the new constructions in Long Island City, or part of it in Astoria in itself that's located in Queens, or maybe Williamsburg, Brooklyn, that is having a peak and new construction because they're trying to change and renovate the area to bring it up in terms of value, in terms of quality of life and stuff like that. So those buildings are considered Class A buildings. But a building like the one that I'm currently residing at, that's either a Class B or a Class C. Now, does this make my neighborhood a bad neighborhood? Not necessarily. It's actually highly sought after. It's within walking distance from the closest train station. I am minutes to the city, so it just doesn't necessarily translate to new versus old. I think it all depends on the overall picture and the neighborhood. So for example, you might think that if you buy a new construction, then there's less maintenance to it. There's some truth to that to a certain degree, but what happens if you don't know how to qualify a good tenant? What if you place a tenant who is a pain in the neck, and at the end it's going to destroy your property? So would you not need to do any maintenance then? Of course you do. You'll have to completely renovate the place so it becomes rent ready for the next tenant that's about to come in. So it's not necessarily true that, you know, new will be the equivalent of less maintenance, and same thing goes for older buildings. So if they're very well maintained, very well kept over the years, and if you place a really good tenant in that location, there's a high likelihood that you will not have to worry about doing a lot of repairs here and there because it's a building that is very well kept. Also, Class A buildings can be higher in terms of value because of the areas that they are located. So when you buy something that is extremely expensive, what do you think that's going to translate in terms of your mortgage payments and also in terms of your rentals. Does that mean you're going to have a positive cash flow at the end of the day, or does it mean it's going to eat into your profits and maybe you could end up in a negative cash flow, as opposed to you when you decide to invest in class B or C's, which are middle class or working class people. These are families who are responsible people. They're willing to pay for their rent because they want a nice place to live. They want a safe area where they can raise their children. It doesn't necessarily have to translate into a bad thing just because it's a B or C. And well, if we're talking about a class D, then usually those are located in low income areas. It's great for cash flow. Maybe the building is not very well maintained, but that doesn't mean that has to be you. You can be a better landlord than the old one. You can come in and fix in the building and maybe bring it up in value a little bit. And maybe you could demand a little bit more in rent if the market can afford that type of increase. And if not, it's great for cash flow. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be in a bad neighborhood. You can find great people in low income areas just as much as you can find not so nice people in the richer areas. So that's pretty much it. I wanted to actually share this with you just to give you some food for thought, because I thought that conversation was actually quite interesting when I heard that. So having a class A investment is not necessarily going to translate to having a class A type of tenant, a class A type of investment, class A type of cash flow. So it's all about working out the numbers and looking into the area, looking into the neighborhood, just to see exactly what's going to work best for you. And that's it. That's all I have for today. And hopefully you guys found the video valuable. And as usual, do not forget to hit the like button or share this information with someone who you think is going to find this valuable. And until then, I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye.